Hello, welcome to Todd Miller TV. I wanted to share a very simple buy versus rent strategy for those of you who are not sure whether you should buy a house or rent a house. There's two different ways you can calculate whether it's a good idea, and we'll take a look at those. So a couple assumptions here. First of all, is you have to be in a position to be able to buy a house. If you can't buy a house because you either don't have the cash, your credit is really terrible, can't get a loan, then you may not have a choice. You're probably stuck with being a renter. So we're going to start the first one. And this is the one that people most commonly look at, which is how much is it going to cost me on a monthly basis. So we'll start with renting, because that's easy. We'll just pick an average house, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, in a normal market, not the Bay Area or someplace like that. Maybe here in Las Vegas. And your house is going to rent for $1,000. Okay, that's what you'll pay in rent. And there's very little risk in that. You pay the $1,000. You know, you pay it for whatever the term of the lease is, and when you're done, you're done. You can move houses pretty easily, pretty straightforward. Okay. Now we'll talk about buying. Now about the house that you would pay $1,000 a month rent for, you could probably buy it and get a loan and have a $600 a month principal plus interest, another $50 for taxes and insurance. So your total paycheck or total amount you would write every month to the bank and send it would be $700. You're saying, hey, this would make sense. I should do this. So you're saying, well, why doesn't everybody do this? Well, we know two things. First of all, half of all houses that are purchased by investors. And this is part of the reason they do it. Because remember, your investor may be this person. They may be paying that $700 a month. They're collecting $1,000. So you're paying for their profit. They're taking that money. And of course, if you're a renter, you have no downside if the market drops. You just pay your rent and the investor loses. Of course, the market goes up. You don't get a profit in it. So a lot of the roadblock a lot of people have is they feel like they're real estate speculators. But investors don't think that way. I mean, most investors don't think about trying to time the market or do anything crazy like that. What they really think about is this number right here. They know they're paying $700 a month. They know they're taking in $1,000. They don't care what the price house is. They've got a margin to collect every month. So that's one way to do it, is just figure out, if I bought a house, I would pay $700, or if I rented, I'd pay $1,000, and you're just out of pocket every month a little less. Of course, here you may have a down payment of some kind that you have to put money down. Of course, when you sell the house, you'll get that back. The other thing is called ROI, and this is a little more of a finer one to figure out. But if you start over here with what does it cost to buy a house? Like, what's the interest rate I would pay to buy a house? And right now, for a person with average credit, you'll get about a 4% interest rate. Now, ROI over here is what a investor would get cash-on-cash return. So if I bought a house or an investor bought a house, you would get between a 7 and 15% annual return on your money. So if you bought a $70,000 house and you rented it out for $100,000 a month, you collect $12,000, plus you have some other taxes and things, and when you backed all that out, you get this ROI. Anytime there's a difference between this and this, you're really better off buying, because you can make up the difference. I mean, you could borrow money at 4%, and you can get a return of 7 to 15%, and that different percentage is money going into your pocket. And then, of course, this is the model a lot of investors use. When home prices go up, what happens is this may or may not change, but this certainly changes. So if you have to pay more for the house, like if I pay $200,000 for the house, now my ROI is going to be like 4 or 5%. It may be better to rent. You know, when home prices are historically high, it may be better off renting. When home prices are historically low, this number gets better, which is why right now in Las Vegas, half of all home purchases are purchased cash, because those investors realize they're only getting 1 or 2% on their money. So they can put it into an asset where they get a higher ROI, and they take advantage of the difference in this in the interest rates. So anyway, these are just two scenarios. It's always a personal decision. The average real estate investor owns 5 houses. That's just the average person. They're they're just private individuals typically as your average real estate investor, and they're all looking at this. You know, they're saying, I could borrow money at this rate and have this kind of a payment and get this return and have positive cash flow, or hey, I've got a bunch of money in the bank, I'm not getting good ROI. The cool thing about this is you can go buy a house to live in, and then after a couple years, move into another house, rent that one out, still make this payment to the bank, but then collect a higher rent on it. So you're buying another house, collecting rent, and if you do this a couple times, if you have 3 or 4 houses, then the house you live in is being paid for, meaning all the rents, the excess that you collected rent will make all your house payments, which is kind of nice. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. This is my buy versus rent analysis. Anyway, that's my update for today, and hope to see you on another video. Thanks.